about PearDeck.
Yes, so excited to be here and to walk you all through PearDeck. And so, should I just start sharing my screen and dive right in? Perfect. And hi there, everyone. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. All right. So we are going to jump right in. Kathleen, is all good? Can you see my screen? Awesome. So we are going to jump in. We have a lot of info to cover today, but the good news is that as we move through everything that we're covering today, I am going to be sure to share out a link with Kathleen and all of you at the end so that you can go back and have access to this entire deck and use it as your review guide or your resource handbook so you can go back and look over anything that we talk about today. So let's jump right in. Welcome to Introduction to PearDeck for Google Slides. I'm so happy that you are all here and that today we're going to learn a little bit more about PearDeck. So the first thing that we're going to do is jump right in and look at our Google Slides presentation. So a couple of things to keep in mind. You'll observe that I'm in Google Slides. You do not have to do anything right now. In a moment, we will jump into the presentation for a bit, and you can absolutely join and participate. But if you just want to take it all in, that's fine too. All right, so hi everyone. I am Onika Osborne. I'm a customer success manager here at PearDeck, and I'm also a former teacher. I taught for 6 years, grades 6 through 12 here in Miami, Florida, and I am always so excited to share the power and magic of PearDeck with teachers. So if we were going to condense the mission of PearDeck into a single thought, it would be this right here. PearDeck is on a mission to help teachers deliver powerful learning moments to every student every day. Let's take a peek at our agenda. So up first, we're going to learn how to build a PearDeck lesson. We'll explore the student and teacher views. We'll spend some brief time in student pace mode, review Flashcard Factory, and if we have time, we'll go over questions and answers and do a mini workshop. So up first, let's talk about building a PearDeck lesson. As you'll see, I'm in Google Slides, and this is where all of the magic is going to happen whenever you're utilizing PearDeck. You're going to want to make sure that you're logged in and opened up your Google account. And then what I want to draw your attention to up here is you'll always want to make sure that your the login that you're signed into your browser with also matches the one for that specific tab. If you're like me, you have tons of emails, and it can be easy for things to get a little confused. So sometimes when you try to access PearDeck, if you're logged into your tab with a different email address, it may pick up on that discrepancy and cause a bit of issues. So just always make sure that those match. So up first, we'll check in about how to make sure we have PearDeck installed. At this time, with your district credentials, you should be able to access all of the PearDeck premium features. If you aren't able to, please reach out to Kathleen and she'll get you set up. But I'd come right here to my add-ons. And because I already have PearDeck installed, I'll go ahead and open up my PearDeck add-on. If I didn't already have it installed, I would go to add-ons and then go to get add-ons, and I would be able to search PearDeck and install it. Now, once I've opened up PearDeck, on the right-hand side is going to be my Google Slides add-on. And this is where I'm going to infuse all of my PearDeck interactivity into my Google Slides presentation. Something to keep in mind, as you can see on this left-hand side right here, I have slides already made and ready to go. So there's no wrong way to use a PearDeck. You can absolutely start from scratch with a blank presentation, or you can go ahead and add in interactivity to a pre-existing presentation that you have. So up first, let's go ahead and take a quick walkthrough of our add-on. First, we have our template library. This is where I direct all brand new users who are new to PearDeck and still getting used to and familiar with how to utilize it. Here's where you'll find an assortment of pre-made content that all you have to do is click it and add it to your presentation. All right, and so for example, when we click into our template library, we can go ahead and scroll through and we'll see all different types of categories, and we're able to select one that pertains to our focus for our lesson. Something I want you to keep in mind is, for example, you'll see we have example questions, littles, math, science, social studies. If you don't see your specific content area, have no fear. You can absolutely update, edit, and customize each of these templates to fit your students' needs and your instructional needs. So when I find a category that I want to learn a little bit more about, let's go ahead and jump into the social and emotional learning category. I'll just go ahead and click it. And from there, I can preview all of the different slides and get an idea of what each one looks like before I add it to my presentation. I can also get an idea of what interaction is included in that slide in this bottom left-hand corner. All right, and once I found a slide that I like, I'm just going to click it, give it a couple of seconds to populate. Let's see if the internet is our friend today, and it is. And once I have done that, I have now added that slide to my presentation. So something you need to know is you're all set right here. There is nothing else that you need to do. You can absolutely just go ahead and start using this slide and presentation with your students. But in true teacher fashion, you can also customize and really make this slide your own. You can come in and change the text, the font size, the font color, the font type. You can also change the images. So I can come right here and resize and move the images. I can also delete an image if I would like to. Okay, can everyone still hear me? Is everything okay? Okay, perfect. I saw her reconnecting, so just wanted to make sure. Yay, thank you, Kathleen. And so I could even just go ahead and delete this image. And my favorite thing is come to another slide. I could go ahead and command copy it and go ahead and grab it and command paste. I love using that tool right there just to go ahead and grab illustrations so that my students can make sure that they feel that they're represented and reflected in my presentation. And I just love to go ahead and use these pre-made content slides for that sometimes. So you can absolutely use these different slides if you like the content on them, or maybe just for the images. You can also go ahead and add in images that you find on Google or that you have saved on your computer. All right. Now, something that we want to be mindful of, I'll go ahead and resize this a bit, is you can edit every piece of your slide. But something you want to always make sure you keep in mind is to look down here at this footer. So when I click it, we'll observe that it's an interactive hyperlinked footer, and it says, don't change this link. So you can absolutely edit the entire slide to your heart's content, but you absolutely want to make sure that you don't touch, delete, or remove this link right here. And that is because this is where your interactivity is housed. And so this is what takes your slide from being a regular Google slide and turns it into a PearDeck interactive slide where your students will be prompted to action when they get there. All right, so edit the entire slide to your heart's content, but always leave that interactive footer there. All right. And so just a quick review, I would scroll back through. I can now go and look for a beginning of lesson template. I can scroll and preview what the slides look like. And then once I found one that I like, I can click it and add it to my presentation. Once it's in my presentation, I can edit all the pieces of it. All right, but I want to always make sure that I always leave this interactive footer at the bottom alone because that's where all my interactivity is housed. So let's head back to the main screen of our add-on and move to our next slide. So this slide is what I like to call a static slide, and it is a slide where there's no interaction on there. And something I love to encourage teachers is there's no incorrect way to build a PearDeck lesson. You can have as many or as little slides and interactive questions as you want. Now, when I'm ready to go ahead and add a question, I'll come right here to this section on the right-hand side. I have 6 different question types to choose from. Up first, I have my text question type that'll prompt my students to type out their answer. I have my multiple choice question type that'll prompt my students to select one answer out of the options I provide. The number question type, where they'll type in a number. Our website question type, which is a great way to add in supplemental resources like YouTube videos or Google Forms quiz into your PearDeck session. Also, our drawing and draggable question types. So when I'm ready to add a question type to a slide, I'll just go ahead and click that button, give Perry a couple of moments to work. He's gonna do a little dance. And then just like that, that interactive footer is going to pop up and let me know that this is an interactive question type and my students are going to be prompted to action when they get here. Now, if I want to change the question type on a slide, whether it's a slide I built myself or a pre-made template slide, I can do two things. I can either click on the footer and delete it, or I can, one second, bring that right back there. And I can just come here and click the new question type I would like to use. So I can leave that footer there and just click the new question type I would want. Here is our draggable question type, which is our most customizable question type. I can add draggable items up to 5 by clicking add another. I can change the item by clicking this downward arrow. And then I can also change the color by clicking on the square. And from here on the right-hand side, I can see exactly what size that item is going to appear to my students. And I can alter it by moving this bar to the left and the right. And when I'm happy with it, I'll update the slide. Perry's going to do his dance. And now I have updated the question type on my slide. Finally, in our add-on, we can add audios to our slides. So I'll just click this button right here. And it's going to give me the option to either record audio or upload audio directly to my slide. This is great because it allows me to go ahead and add just additional accommodations or support for my students if they should need it. I love using audio to include instructions, encouragement, or even read the text that's on that particular slide. You can actually record or upload up to 30 minutes of content. So you have a lot of freedom over there. And something to keep in mind is that the audio is not going to play automatically when your students get to that slide. However, they will be able to click the headphones icon on their screen and it'll play for them once they do that. So now let's get ready to jump into our PearDeck session for a little bit. I want to take a moment to review our different views in PearDeck. So we have 3 unique views and one of them is shared. The student view is the view where your students are going to be responding to all of your questions and inputting their answers. All right. Up next, we have our presentation view. This is the shared view between the teacher and the student, where the teacher is controlling the pace of the lesson. And finally, we have our teacher dashboard, which is that unique view for the teacher. I love to call it your teacher bestie, where you're going to be able to go in and see your students' progress in real time. All right, so now let's go ahead and jump into our PearDeck session. When I have finished editing a PearDeck deck and I'm feeling confident, ready to teach my students, I'm going to come right here and click this green Start Lesson button. From there, I'll be able to select which lesson mode I would like to engage with. So I can either choose a student-paced activity or an instructor-paced activity. And so we'll go ahead and click instructor-paced, but please keep in mind, you can always toggle between the different lesson modes as needed. And now here's where you can join in with the presentation. So you can go ahead and open up a tab and go to joinpd.com. I'm going to move my teacher dashboard to the side for a moment. So go ahead and go to joinpd.com and type in this code for me, please. KCDDFN. And I'm actually going to model for you joining. Something I want to show you really quickly before I model, and I know we're broadcasting, so I can't drop it in the chat at the moment, but another way you can have your students join your PearDeck session is to click right here where you see Give Students a Link. If you click that, it's going to copy that hyperlink to your clipboard, and then you can drop it into your video conferencing tool or your LMS system. And so you can post it to your students and let them know, hey, click this link and join our PearDeck session, and it'll take them right there. All right, so when I'm ready to join, I'm going to go to joinpd.com, and I'm going to enter in my code. And just like that, I'm in the session. So I'm going to go ahead and share how I'm feeling today. And so something to note is if you are in person with your students, they will be observing your presentation view on either your smartboard or your projector, and then they only need to have their student view, that's this tab I'm observing right here, on their device. But if your students are participating remotely into your class that day, what you want to have them do is split their screen. So what I would do is pull this tab down, resize it, move it over to one side, and then come back here to my presentation view and resize that. And then I'm able to view both at the same time. So if I'm a student who's remotely logging into your class, I can see your presentation view on the left, and I can see my student view where I'll input all of my answers on the right. All right, perfect. And then from here, what we'll do is go back to our presentation view and click continue. So we can see we have 3 students connected, and from there, jump in. So let's take a quick moment and answer this question. How much do you know about PearDeck? Right? I'll go ahead and show responses. And here we can see in real time our student responses coming in. And so something I want you to know is that right here, I can see that 2 of my students have gone ahead and marked that they use PearDeck and love it. One says that they've tried it out. Whenever you show responses in presentation view, it's always going to be anonymous. And this is to go ahead and protect your students, make sure that they can engage authentically with your session. All right? But right here with your lovely teacher dashboard that also launches when you launch your PearDeck session, you can always come right here and observe exactly who is responding which answer to which question. All right. So we'll keep moving forward, and we're going to take about a minute here and explore these PearDeck resources. I'm absolutely going to turn this session onto student pace mode after this webinar, so you can always come in and move through it just by using that code in the top right-hand corner. You'll be able to come in and move through all of this and review all of it on your own. But I'm going to go ahead and model turning on student pace mode. So I'm going to click the More Options button and turn on student pace mode. And now, if you'll take a moment to explore some of the slides, something I want you to keep in mind is I'm not really focused on you getting the right answer, but more so to get you to thinking about the different types of ways you can engage in PearDeck and placing yourself in the place of your student, right? Thinking through which interactive question types might best suit their needs. All right. And I'll take this as a moment to bring our teacher dashboard over. We're going to do a light overview of the teacher dashboard, but I'll definitely send over some resources so you can dive deeper into it. Your teacher dashboard is your teacher bestie. It's how you're going to, in real time, monitor your students' progress during your class. So as you can see, I can see that I have 6 students currently in my live session. When I click the roster, I can see exactly which of my students have joined, and I can also see what they checked as their mood for the day. That's awesome because it'll let me know if I need to follow up with that student and check in with them. I can also see this blue silhouette on each slide, and it has a number. That lets me know which of my students and how many of them are on which slide, so I can understand if I need to alter the pace of my lesson, maybe give a little bit more time, or even support a student who might be distracted. So once I click on the silhouette, I'll be able to see exactly which student is on which slide. And so I'll be able to move through and observe my students' progress through all of those slides. And then I can always come up here and change the layout for the responses I'm viewing. So for example, I can go to grid layout where I'll see my students' responses side by side once they get there. Let's go to this first question. So when I go to my grid layout, I can see all of my different student responses. I can see what they've drawn. I can also go to list layout that'll allow me to scroll one by one through each of these responses. And then I can go to overlaid layout, which is pretty fun. I see all of the responses at the same time. All right, so I'm actually going to go ahead and stop student pace mode. But that is one way that you can utilize your teacher dashboard. And actually, let me go ahead and toggle back to our grid layout for a moment to show you. I can choose to go ahead and share some exemplary responses. So this star right here allows me to focus on specific student responses. And then when I click show responses, only those responses are going to show on my presentation view. Remember, this is the view that's on my smartboard, my projector. This is the view where my students are following along. On their student view, they're only ever going to be able to see their responses. And then I can also choose to leave direct feedback. So maybe I can say, hey, you are doing awesome today. Just leave a quick little bit of encouragement and feedback to my student. Something to keep in mind is that your student will get this direct message sent directly to their, their portal right there in the PearDeck session, and they'll get a notification on their right hand of their screen. They'll be able to mark that they've read your message, but they won't be able to respond back. However, you can go in and continue to send additional feedback to them. So maybe if you have feedback about the work that they're doing, or you just want to let them know, I noticed you were absent yesterday and I'm happy you're here today. That'll be a great way to do that. And finally, you have the more options button right here. If, for example, a student draws or writes something that's inappropriate, you can always hide it before choosing to show responses. And then only the responses that you have not selected to hide are going to show on your screen. So that's a little bit about our teacher dashboard. All right, so we're going to cover a couple more things before we head out. And so I want to take a moment to show you how to set a timer for your students as they're moving through your lesson. Down on this right-hand side where you see our lock screens button, you can do a long press. And what that will do is present 3 different time options that you can go ahead and set for your students. I'll toggle to the student screen for a moment. This is where your student will be able to see exactly how much time they have left for that specific slide. And once it's run out, it's going to go ahead and lock the screen. Let's keep moving forward. All right. So a couple of things we want to talk about before we head out is how to use PearDeck in person. So PearDeck absolutely has been a great tool when we've been remote or even hybrid, but PearDeck absolutely started as a tool that teachers were using in person in their classroom. Here are some things to keep in mind. PearDeck allows you to hear from every student in your classroom. You can use PearDeck as a classroom center or a station with your students. You can use additional tools like Immersive Reader to provide additional accommodations to your students. You can also add audio for additional instructions or positive reinforcement. And you can use reflect and review or takeaways as a follow-up to the lesson. Finally, you can collaborate with Flashcard Factory. And this is just a sample to show you how you can use PearDeck in your lesson planning. There is no wrong way to use PearDeck. Spoiler alert. You can use it from bell to bell, or you can absolutely use it just for a specific part of your lesson. Maybe your students know every day at the end of class to grab their device and sign into PearDeck to complete their exit ticket. Or maybe it's how you start your class with your bell ringer or your do now. You could even have your students continue using PearDeck after class is over and reviewing the work that they did that day in class. There's no wrong way to utilize the PearDeck. And so here are some additional slides for you that'll build on those different points for using PearDeck in the classroom. You'll be able to access these through your reflect and review environment that I'll show you a little bit at the end. All right, hearing from every student, more information on building classroom stations, using Immersive Reader, embedding audio, which we talked about earlier, and then our reflect and review and takeaways environment, which I'll show you as we end out this session. So now we're going to take a moment and talk about Flashcard Factory, which is our vocabulary tool that is awesome and super fun for using with students to get them to build a stronger understanding of the vocabulary for your specific unit that you're in, or maybe you teach English language learners or students who are learning a different language. This could be a great way to get your students to really have fun learning the new vocabulary words that you have for them. So first, what we're going to want to do is end this session. So I'll come right here to my right-hand corner and I'll click end. And I want to make sure that I name this session. So I'll just put JCPS, PearDeck, and I'll save and end my session. And so from here, I have a couple of options, including to go to my reflect and review environment. I'll also always be able to access this from my, when I log into my PearDeck home at peardeck.com. So if you don't do it right now, you'll always be able to access it. But let me go ahead and open up reflect and review for you real quick. So this is where I'm going to basically have a recap of my entire lesson. I'll come right in and pick a student. And so I can choose to copy the student link and share that out to my students once again. They're only ever going to be able to access their own reflect and review environment. They're not going to be able to see their peers' work, but you will be able to access all of your students who join the session. And so I can scroll through, I'll see every single slide that I had in my presentation, and then I'll also see any responses that my students entered. Additionally, I'll be able to come here and leave feedback for my students. This is a great way to continue the learning even after class has ended. You don't have to use a new PearDeck every single day. You can make it an assignment that your students go back and review any feedback that you left for them. All right. Now let's take a moment to go over Flashcard Factory. I'm going to type in PearDeck.com and head over to my PearDeck home. I'm going to click teacher login from here, and then I'm going to be signed into my home. And so there are tons of great things here. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about this to help@PearDeck.com, or bubble them up to Kathleen and she can definitely reach out to me. But at first we're going to come right here to our PearDeck vocabulary. And so PearDeck's Flashcard Factory / vocabulary tool is going to look very similar to joining a PearDeck session, and I'll show you how. Up first, you want to build your list. So you can absolutely build your list from scratch. Maybe you're starting a new unit in your unit plan for the year, or a new story, or maybe your students just had a test and you realize they didn't do quite well on the vocabulary. You want to go ahead and remediate. So you could absolutely type in your list individually, or you could import. Something you want to keep in mind if you're going to import a list is you want to go ahead and open up a Google Sheets file or an Excel spreadsheet file and have all of your words in column A and all of your definitions in column B. Then you just copy and paste it right here and it'll format correctly. All right. So I'll come up here and name my list. Love to do pets. And I'll enter in a couple of words. So I'll do puppy. And then we'll do kitten. And you can absolutely add in as many words as you would like. From here, I can type in my own definition, or I could use our Merriam and Webster integration to search for my own word. So I can come right here and I'll see that, and maybe I want to edit the definition. And then I can also come here and just put a small cat. I can type in my own definition. So there's no wrong way to build out your list. Once I've built my list, I'll come over here to click Play Flashcard Factory, and this is where it looks very similar to joining a PearDeck session. So I'll go ahead and click OK. And once again, if you could please join this session by going to joinpd.com and typing in this code, that would be awesome. The code is XLLRBO. I'm going to toggle away for one moment so I can model it for you. Okay, and this is an example of your student view, what your students will see. So when I come back here, I can see I have one worker that's joined. And as my students log in and join the session, I'm going to see that number increase. And I'll go ahead and click Clock In. So right now, I'm the only student that has joined, and I'll see that my students have been divided into two groups. I'll go ahead and click Let's Play. From here, you'll see that I am the person in charge of reviewing my students' flashcards. So toggling to my student view, each of your students will be paired, and one of them will be tasked with writing a sentence with the word, and another with drawing a picture for the word. And they'll work their way through all of the flashcards until they're done. And once they submit the flashcards, you'll enter into quality control, where you'll review all of the flashcards with your students as a collective. So because we don't have any students in and haven't made any flashcards, there are none here, but when you create them, they will be here. I want to be respectful of our time. I know that we are at time. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm going to share out our reflect and review link for everything that we covered today with Kathleen, and you'll be able to log in and go back through all of this information. Please reach out if you have any questions to help@PearDeck.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was great. We had some great involvement in the chat, and we really appreciate you being here with us today.
Yay, thank you.